Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Storytime with Alex Cardinale. I'm your host, Alex Cardinale. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. If you're watching this live, thank you so much for tuning in live. And if you're catching the replay version of this episode, thank you for watching. Hopefully, you'll enjoy this episode of Storytime with Alex Cardinale. So, today I'm going to talk about my experience working at Big Y World Class Markets from November 2018 until July of 2019. And I'm going to tell you guys all about my very first job. Now, Big Y was the very first job that I ever had, and I'm going to tell you how I got it, what I liked about it, how I got promoted to cashier, all that good stuff in this episode of Storytime with Alex Cardinale. So, just a little backstory. I graduated high school in 2013. So, from 2013 to 2018, which is about 5 years, I was trying so hard to get employed somewhere and get a job. So it took me 5 years from my graduation of high school to finally get a job. And I was so fortunate to get a job at Big Y World Class Markets. And I'm very fortunate to say that my first job was perhaps one of the best jobs that I've had so far. I really, really do enjoy. Um, I really did enjoy working at Big Y World Class Markets. So we've got our first live viewer. We've got my friend Jeff, who says, "What's up?" Hey Jeff, how you doing? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this live video. Hopefully you enjoy it. So, before we get into my story, I know a lot of people are probably going to ask, what is Big Y World Class Markets? Well, Big Y World Class Markets is a grocery store chain in Massachusetts and Connecticut. They have locations in Western Mass. I also believe they have locations in Central Mass as well as in the Berkshires. And there's locations in Connecticut. So it's a grocery store chain that is unlike many other grocery stores because Big Y has a bakery that has pastries and desserts from a local pastry shop that specializes in Italian desserts and pastries called La Florentines. Um, they have a pizza department where they make homemade pizzas. Not a lot of other grocery stores do that. So I do miss that about Big Y. I miss getting a fresh pizza while I grocery shopped. And they also have a seafood department where they prepare fresh fish and chips, fresh shrimp and chips, and a lot of other fried seafood dishes. So that is how Big Y deferred itself from other grocery stores is they had all those amazing different things that other stores don't have, like the pizzeria in the grocery store and the fresh seafood that you can purchase to eat. So that is what Big Y is, a really cool grocery store. So that is why I wanted to work at Big Y is because of it's a great chain. I love working there and I love shopping there as a customer. All right. So before we get into my story, if you have any questions about Big Y or if you have questions about my time working at Big Y, feel free to post them in the comments and I will react to your questions and I will answer your questions as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So, about October of 2018, I started applying for jobs. I applied for just about anywhere you can imagine. I applied at restaurants. I applied at pet stores. I applied at other grocery stores and even toy stores. Then I got in touch with one of my older high school computer teachers who I became really good friends with. Her name is Pat Boylan, and she is no longer with us, unfortunately, so may she rest in peace. But I said to her, I'm looking for work. It's been 5 years since I graduated high school, and do you know where I should apply and who's hiring? And she told me that she was working at the Big Y in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, and she would put good word in for me because she knew that I was good with customers. I was a people person, and I'm great with people. And also, I was in culinary arts at the time. So originally, I was going to apply to work in the bakery or the pizza department or a food area. But unfortunately, all of those departments were already filled. So all that was left was customer service spots, and there was a position that I applied for, which was a service clerk. Now, a service clerk is somebody that helps the customers. So basically, it's a bagger. But a service clerk is a more professional term for a bagger. So I applied as a bagger, and uh, Miss Boylan, my dear friend, went out of her way to give me a really good recommendation to the manager, and I had an interview at Big Y World Class Markets in Wilbraham, Massachusetts. So my first interview was with the human resources guy. His name was Eric, a very nice gentleman. The interview was very thorough, and this interview was for the bakery department. I did not know at the time that this was actually going to be my interview for the customer service position. But when I went for this interview, I was under the impression that it was to work in the bakery. So I showed them all my culinary arts stuff that I did in high school and my vocational school. But literally, it had nothing to do with the job that was being offered. So I did not know that at the time, so I kind of looked silly bringing that stuff with me. Anyway, I went home that day not knowing whether or not I was going to get hired. I was kind of nervous because because I wasn't sure if I was going to get this job or not. So a few days go by, and then Eric calls me back and says, unfortunately, the bakery position is full. However, I would like to offer you the customer service position, which is a service clerk. And he explained to me what the position was, where I'd be getting carts, I would be bagging groceries for customers, returning items to their proper location in the store, all that good stuff. So he asked if I would be interested, and I said yes, of course. I definitely need a job. I would be happy to accept this position. So after that phone call, I had an interview with the customer service manager. Her name was Kristen, a very pleasant young woman, and it was a great interview. I got to know her, and immediately she hired me. And I was really happy for that because this was my very first job. Like I said, 5 years after I graduated high school, I needed to get into a routine again, and I wanted to do something. So having a job was very beneficial for me at the time. So during the interview, we talked about what the position would entail, and she mentioned to me that my friend Pat Boylan had told them how much of a good worker I was in high school, how sincere I am in dealing with other people. So that is what really got me hired, is the words of encouragement and the words of my dear friend Pat Boylan. She got me in there, and I just worked my way up to where I was when I left because I had to move to Florida. I think it goes without saying that had I not moved here to Florida, I still would be working at Big Y, and I would be loving life, and I probably would be a customer service manager, or at least in a assistant customer service manager. So that is how I got hired at Big Y. And I really, really have to say thank you to my late great friend Pat Boylan for getting me hired, because it helped create my resume. So my first few days of work, I was really nervous because I was not sure what to expect. I had never worked professionally, and I had never worked legally. Like I had never been forced to uh, like document this work and stuff. I had done under the table jobs, plenty of them, but this was my very first actual legal job. So I was really nervous. I was not sure what to expect. However, the first week or so was really easy. It was just computer training. And I am really good at computers. I learn stuff through computers really quickly. So this was very, very good for me. So basically, I learned how to bag groceries. They taught you how to put stuff in bags, like, for example, cardboard has to go against cardboard. And then, of course, raw meat goes with raw meat and separated from cooked foods and things like that. Most of that stuff I had already known from culinary school, so that stuff was easy. So after the first week of the computer training, I finally was on the floor working with the customers. So that was kind of intimidating because I did not want to be the person that was new and made a lot of mistakes. Luckily, I had a fantastic trainer. His name is Ryan. He is a young man that trained me. Very nice kid. They're very thorough in his training. He showed me how to bag. He showed me how to do some of the maintenance work that service clerks do. He showed me how to get carts and also how to clean up the recycle room. Now in Massachusetts, you are able to redeem cans and bottles for like 5 cents, and you get paid for those cans and bottles. Now here in Florida, we don't have that. So if you are a heavy soda drinker like I am and my family is, you could potentially make your money back by returning cans and bottles. I'm not sure why Florida does not have that, but it's very popular in Massachusetts. And I know that a lot of my coworkers and myself at Big Y, we used to have to clean up the recycle room. So he showed me how to do that. So like 2 or 3 weeks into my job, I got the hang of it, and I did pretty well. Bagging groceries for customers, helping put their groceries in their car, getting carts, and the maintenance work. So the first few weeks on the job, very fun. There wasn't nothing to be nervous about. All the coworkers were very friendly and they answered any questions that I had. The management was wonderful. It was Kristen, Sydney, Beth, and Denise, I believe. They're some wonderful people, and I miss them a lot. Um, and I'm very thankful that my very first management team that I had the opportunity to work for was very professional, very kind, and they were eager to help you learn and be the best employee that you can be. And that is what led me to become a good employee for wherever I work. So I am very thankful for that. So I started becoming very friendly with some of the customers. They remember me by name, and they always wanted me to bag for them, especially the older people. I became familiar with like how they wanted their stuff bagged. Like for example, they would bring like cooler bags, and I know that they want their cold stuff in the cold bags, and the other bags are like for the non-cold foods, things like that. So we would talk on a frequent basis. And they used to always tease me for being a Yankee fan and living in Western Massachusetts. Now, when I worked at Big Y, I had a New York Yankees pin on my apron. But we'll talk about that as the show goes on. So the first few days of work eventually led into my first few months. Now, my first few months of work were great. I did my job well, and I did what I was told, and I was always on time. There have only been a few times that I've called out of work when I worked at Big Y, and that was because I either had a doctor appointment, or I had a tooth surgery, or I just wasn't feeling well. So, having said that, my first few months, I did my job and I did it pretty well. However, there was one incident where I got in trouble, and that was because while I was returning carts to the cart corral at Big Y, I was checking my phone because if I can remember correctly, we were supposed to be outside for a half an hour collecting carts. That's just how it was, so that all the service clerks could rotate around and collect carts, and there'd be enough carts for everybody. So when I was out there for half an hour and I got all the carts in, like I would stay out there for a few minutes just to read my phone. And a customer went and told one of my managers that I was on the phone. And of course, I didn't get fired or anything. They just told me not to be on my phone when I'm doing carts or when I'm at work. So I turned off my phone ever since that day that I went to this job, and I never used my phone again at Big Y when I was a employee. So after the first 3 or 4 months, I went up to my boss, Kristen, and I asked her, could I get the opportunity to become a cashier? And her answer really surprised me, and her answer was, I already have you scheduled for training. So I must have done a great job to have already been promoted, and I did not even know that I was being trained to be a cashier at that time. And I was really happy about that. So I really look forward to becoming a cashier. Now, like the week before I began training to become a cashier, our competition, Stop and Shop, they went on a labor strike. All the employees at Stop and Shop did not want to work anymore until they got paid more money, I think it was. So this went on for like 2 to 4 weeks. And Big Y, all the Big Ys in Massachusetts and Connecticut were really busy. I'm talking really busy. We probably made record profits in 2019 during this time because of the Stop and Shop labor strike. So we were getting customers that were regulars, and we were getting new customers coming over from Stop and Shop. So um, it was so busy that there could not be training for a new position, and I just had to stick to bagging groceries and getting carts during the busy time. However, I had a lot of fun doing that. I did not mind bagging groceries or retrieving carts when it was busy. It was when it was slow that I didn't really like doing it because you're just standing there doing nothing. But after a while, when it got slow, I learned to put some of the put back items that the customers did not want back in their respective place in the store. So I always went to work on time during these 2 to 4 weeks where we were really busy. And I picked up a couple of shifts that other people did not want to work. And I worked those shifts to prove that I am a team player. And I did my best to make sure that Big Y in Wilbraham, Massachusetts was handling all the incoming clientele and all the incoming customers to the best of my ability. And I did my job very well. So after the 2 to 4 weeks, when things started to go back to normal, I began my cashier training. And I really liked it. It was real simple. I had a female employee training me on being a cashier. I did work a couple of service clerkships in between my training on becoming a cashier. But eventually, after I trained for a week, they let me become a cashier. And I have to say, that was my favorite part about working at Big Y was being a cashier and interacting with the customers and them seeing all the buy one get one free specials that Big Y was having, and that was the best. I don't think you can replace that experience with me. One of the best working experiences that I ever have. So my promotion to cashier was great. I still technically was a service clerk. However, I would cover cashiers' employee breaks. So when a cashier went on lunch break, I took over for them. When a cashier called out and they needed a cashier, I could pick up that shift and be a cashier there. I really enjoyed that. I remember I worked a cashier shift like 2 or 3 times before I gave my 2 week notice because I was moving to Florida. And I was actually being scheduled to be a cashier before I had to give up my 2 week notice because I was moving down here to Florida. So within a span of 7 to 8 months, I had already been promoted to cashier. I really, really loved working at Big Y. It was really fun. So a lot of people ask me, what was my first job like? What was it like to work at Big Y? It was fun, really fun. I had a great time. I loved being able to interact with the customers. I loved interacting with the employees. A lot of them were my age range, which was great. I really appreciated that. I made a couple of great friends. I loved the management. Kristen, Denise, Sydney. There's a lot of them. Some people I probably forgot. I talked with a man named Yates. He's a very nice gentleman. We're friends. He actually trained me on one of my first cashier shifts. And I remember dropping somebody's cake and I freaked out because here it is, my first cashier shift, and I've already did a big fuck up by dropping a customer's cake. But Yates, a very smart man, he ran to the bakery and had a new cake made, or they fixed it somehow, and he brought it back, and the customer was happy. So I have to thank Yates for that because he saved my ass that day. Really, really appreciate that. So Yates is a great guy, and hopefully we can see each other one more time. Maybe come visit Florida for a vacation. But great experience working at Big Y, great friendships, great memories. Like I remember that cake incident, and I also remember the cell phone incident that I told you guys about. It's funny now because now I know not to use a phone when you're at work. And also, I remember some of the customers. The customers were great, always got great compliments, and they enjoyed me serving them. Now, I remember there used to be this guy that came in and he always bought like $300 worth of fruit. And I was like, why would he be spending this much money on fruit? But it was actually a chef, and he worked at a local restaurant, and he was like the dessert chef, pastry chef. And he told me that he was the pastry chef, and he gave me some great recipes. So all in all, it was an A plus experience. I really enjoyed it. And if I ever move back to Massachusetts, which is very unlikely because I don't like snow or I don't like cold weather, but if I ever did move back to Massachusetts, I would definitely reapply to work at Big Y. So, my final days working at Big Y were in the summer of 2019. So, in May of 2019, my family and I had made the decision that we were moving to Southern Florida, and we moved to West Palm Beach, Florida in August of 2019. So, from May until July, I knew that I had to savor every moment of my shifts at Big Y, and I did. I did not go into these shifts thinking that it was work. I went in there thinking it was a chance for me to explore my last days living in Massachusetts and interacting with the New Englanders and seeing the fresh produce in the spring and summertime in New England and Big Y. Now living in Florida, that produce is available year round here, but it's not in Massachusetts. So my final days working at Big Y were very fun. So in those final days working at Big Y, I had told some of my personal friends that I was moving to Florida, and a lot of them were shocked. They were like, "Why are you moving to Florida? What are you going to do for job?" And they kept saying that I was a great employee, and Big Y is going to miss me and stuff. So um, I decided, like, there was a time where I had thought maybe I should stay here. My family can move to Florida, but then I got tired of the cold weather, and I was like, I'm just going to go with my family. I can't live by myself anyway, not until I get financially stable. So the last month of working at Big Y, that is when it hit me that I was going to leave a job that I loved. That is when I realized I might not ever have a job that I love as much as this one. So I was dreading having to tell my boss that I really loved because she was a very friendly lady, very kind, very caring. I dreaded having to tell her that I was moving to Florida and I had to give up my position. So luckily for me, I told one of the female cashiers, and she went and told, or one of the managers overheard her talking, and she pulled me aside and asked me why I had not told her that I was moving to Florida and I should give her a 2 weeks notice. And the next day I came back with like a letter of resignation. I told her I was moving to Florida, and I put some kind words in there and a lot of compliments. And I remember she picked up the letter, she read it, and she started crying. That's how much of an impact I had on Big Y in Wilbraham. I was a great employee, and it was really sad to leave Big Y. I really enjoyed it. So my last day working at Big Y was really sad. I didn't get to take any pictures because we were busy. But my last day working at Big Y, I I remember saying goodbye to everybody, and they all wished me luck in Florida. So I miss everybody at Big Y dearly. Hopefully, my managers at Big Y are seeing this video. And if you are watching this video, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to work at your store. It was a blast. I had a great time. Thank you for making my very first job experience a positive one. I know a lot of people can't say that their first job was great, but I am very fortunate that I can say my first job was awesome. So thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, Beth. And there's one other, and thank you, Barbara. Barbara, and also thank you, Eric, because you guys made my life easy. You made me love my job, and you made me want to come to work. So that's my story about working at Big Y. I know it was all over the place, but really, it was a great experience. I have nothing bad to say about it. I definitely would work at Big Y again. Hopefully, Big Y opens up here in Florida because we need a grocery store with a pizza department because we really don't have that many great pizzas here in Florida. So that brings me to my final topic. Would I recommend anyone living in Western Massachusetts to work at Big Y? Hell yes. Yes, I would. You get great pay, great hours, great management, and you're going to love your coworkers. I think the minimum wage in Massachusetts right now is like $15. So you're making way more money than I'm making at my current job. So, yes, I recommend anyone living in Massachusetts to get a job at Big Y. It's a great first job. They take great care of you, and I think you will enjoy it. So, thank you guys for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed my little story about working at Big Y World Class Markets. I think it was a really fun experience. Now, in the future, I would like to interview the manager of the Big Y that I worked at. Maybe we can get that scheduled so that she can tell you guys how I was as an employee. I like to think I was a great employee, but that's not for me to judge. That's for the customers and my service manager to judge. Alrighty. With that being said, before I go, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, the legendary Alex Cardinale. I'm going to check the comments now, see if we have any live comments. We have a question from my friend Steve. Steve, how you doing today, sir? Steve asked, did you really want to move back to Florida? I know you lived in Florida before, but why did you guys move back? Yes, yes, we really did want to move back to Florida. We wanted to escape the cold weather in Massachusetts. We wanted to escape the snow. Um, and most importantly, um, we wanted to kind of escape the clientele that was in our neighborhood. There was a lot of crime going on, a lot of drug deals, a lot of drug dealers, drug activities. So basically, we just wanted to get away from the shady people of Western Massachusetts. And there's a lot of shady people in Western Mass. There's a lot of crime and a lot of that bad stuff, but there's crime everywhere. There's crime here in Florida too, but not as bad as it was in Western Massachusetts. But having said that, I can say that working at Big Y was a positive experience, and I really enjoyed it. So it took like the shady characters and the shady environment where I was living in the neighborhood away. So why did you guys move back? Well, we wanted to live in a place that is nice year round, and we know Florida is like summer all year round. And also, we just like Southern Florida, and we like the beach, and we like Disney World, Universal Studios, things like that. So that's why we came back to Florida, and we love it here. I really enjoy life in Florida. It's really fun. There's a lot of stuff to do, like more stuff that you could do than you could do in Massachusetts. All we had in Massachusetts was Six Flags New England, but down here we got Disney World, we've got Universal Studios, we've got Icon Park in Orlando, which is where I'm going to be broadcasting my 8-year anniversary of YouTube from in March. And there's a lot of great things in Florida. So I hope that answers your question. Alrighty, guys, I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Storytime with Alex Cardinale. I hope you enjoyed it, and definitely check out the Big Y in Wilbraham, Massachusetts, if you're ever in Western Mass. Alex Cardinale saying thank you for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a huge like and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, everybody.